Hello and welcome, people of the internet and MAME enthusiasts, to my BatMAME arcade machine project version 3. In this video, I'm going to go over basic info on various components that were in version 2 that will carry over to version 3 of BatMAME. I will cover joysticks, buttons, tracker ball, spinners, circuit boards, wiring, tips and tricks, and I'm sure a lot more. I want to now show some basic things about a arcade machine console board. Here's a button. Basically, you put it face side up in whatever hole you want, and then there's a plastic nut that you screw and tighten underneath. To install the switch to the button, you go from the button side peg and the switch side hole, and then rotate 90 degrees until it snaps in place. The wiring loom that came with the printed circuit board from Ultimark had the common or negative wire that were daisy chained together. I put that in the top blade of the switch. The live wire or positive wire I put in the middle blade. This is the wiring loom that came with the mini pack from Ultimark. The only tip I have is just be careful when you install the connector side to the printed circuit board. Make sure you get the pins lined up with the holes. The mini pack has a wiring diagram for the circuit board that's pretty self-explanatory. It comes pre-encoded for a trackball that I also use for a mouse with left and right buttons, as well as encoding for a spinner. I am not sponsored or endorsed by Ultimark at all. When I did my initial research, I just liked their products and I wanted to keep everything in the same family, which is why I have so many Ultimark products. The joystick, as you see here, has two different kinds of connections, a 5-pin connector as well as a USB connector. It does come with USB cables, but not the 5-pin cable. The tracker ball has a plastic ring that covers up the hole that you cut out from your board. It is of course installed from underneath. I believe it did come with hardware to install it from underneath, but I'm no longer using that hardware since version 1 of BatMAME. I will show how I'm installing it in a future video. This is a spinner, and it has a ring similar to a button that holds it in place on the board, as well as a counterweight for creating resistance when you spin the spinner. And there's the connector. The Tron joystick has two wiring looms that come out of it. One is for the LED lights, the other is for the trigger button. It also came with a nice manual, as well as restrictor plates that of course restrict the movement of the joystick, and it came with its own circuit board that had encoding for the joystick, as well as space for extra buttons. The biggest problem that I had with the joystick, it was just too bright. It caused a glare off of the TV. So therefore I am going to use a switch from a old riding lawnmower that I junked up, and I'm going to install that on my board somewhere. Not sure exactly where, but it's going to go somewhere, and that will control the light of the joystick. The first version of BatMAME had a third and fourth player controls on the control board. However, I replaced it with cup holders, but the cup holders aren't really big enough but for a bottle of beer, which is fine by me because I really don't want any kind of liquids around all these electronics. I do plan on moving the 1 and 2 player as well as the coin button somewhere else. The coin button has a quarter glued on from 1979. That is the first year that I remember playing a video game. I believe it was Space Invaders in a bowling alley. BatMAME version 1 had player 3 and player 4 green and yellow joysticks and buttons. I am keeping the same color scheme for the next version, as far as black and blue for player 1, red for player 2. Here's a regular joystick, and it has the same micro switches that are found in buttons. It has 8-way movement. It installs from underneath with small screws and is wired the same as the buttons. This joystick has a restrictor plate option that is installed on the top of it. It has a slightly longer shaft, as you can see when I compare it with the other joystick. And I will be installing it as a player 1 option. This little ring can lift up and rotate to choose between a 4-way or an 8-way restriction. This is the Ultramark UltraStick 360 with the 2 options for connecting. It has a full 360-degree rotation with a magnetic in the middle. I will be keeping the same configuration for the next version of BatMAME with black as player 1, as well as the blue controls in the middle. The red will be player 2 on the right. I will also install hinges in the back to change the angle of the board slightly, as well as give access to troubleshoot and make repairs. So for the 3rd and 4th player option, I ordered these trays from Amazon. They're about 35 bucks each. They look like this, a little padding on the bottom. I want to be able to play sitting down, so it's also a 1st player option. A little piece of wood will go over the top like that, cover the whole thing up. Joystick installed from underneath, of course, with buttons and a USB cable going out that way. So if you can, with either trying something out brand new or if you just need to change something up, I would recommend mocking things up with some cardboard. It gives you the chance to install everything, wire everything up, make sure everything works. So using the previous version, I'm going to trace everything out. The top to bottom is exactly 2x4, so I can use that as marking points. And once I have everything down, I'm going to trace everything out. I'm going to then put in some grid lines starting from the exact middle, which I think is right about here. And finally, in the next BatMAME, I will use the same stand TV laptop. I won't, however, be trying to paint the Batman logo. I'll just use a sticker. Thanks for watching.